Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. It is Thursday, and you know what that means, folks. It means we bring on the one and only Jonathon Twomley. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, man. So,
I
one
didn't
thing.
I didn't get the memo about the tie. I'm sorry. I, otherwise I would have worn a tie. Actually,
Oh,
my daughter has been after me to wear a tie because I haven't worn a tie in such a long time, and
yeah,
there's a good reason to do it.
yeah. Funny story. I should have since you know. But funny story. I went to pick up my wife's dress at the dry cleaner, and they asked, "Hey, do you want do you want your clothes from a couple of years ago?" I'm like, "Didn't know I had any." Sure enough, come all these dress shirts come out, full on fancy suit comes out. I'm like, "Huh, I might as well wear one of those things tomorrow." So that's what I'm doing. Just I threw it on just cause.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
I think I have a bunch of stuff left over at the dry cleaner from before COVID, but the problem is I've lost like 35 pounds since then, so none of it's going to fit me anyway.
Donation.
Yeah, exactly. I should at least pick it up and get it off their hands and take it to Goodwill or something. But
That's funny. That's funny. So, hey, one of the things I'm doing with a lot of my experts this week, because we all come from different domains, different expertise, is really asking you what kind of books do you recommend, folk that you've enjoyed that you thought were helpful that maybe others should go pick up. So, any thoughts on that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got pretty good reading list of stuff that I like,
Okay.
and I just pulled a couple of my favorites off the shelf. Unfortunately, some of the stuff is in my office. I'm not in my office today, but I'll just kind of tell you about it. But I've got other books I can actually hold up the cover and show you if you like.
Sure.
But the first one that I always recommend to everybody is called Irrational Exuberance by Robert Shiller, who is a Nobel Prize winning economist. And Irrational Exuberance is about how markets work, and specifically how they work during the great financial bubble and subsequent crash. And and it is, his general thesis is that markets are not rational, right? So it's very difficult to tie what's going on in the markets to any kind of economic news. What basically you have is feedback loops. So when everybody is feeling good, they're all congratulating each other and encouraging each other to buy, and everyone's taking the example of everybody else, and they buy more based on what happened to the last guy, until it runs out of steam and goes in reverse, and then the opposite happens where you have a negative feedback loop, and you have a crash. So it's a very, very good book and very readable.
It is. I remember I read that book came out like 09 ish.
See it. I just had it up here, and of course,
it's one of those books I certainly read. It really has helped me validate. I track the consumer for much of the same reason, right? Because if you could find out where the wave of consumers are going,
it actually came out in year 2000.
Oh, 2000, older than I thought. Okay.
I guess that's the original version of it, right? Because he talks about the financial crash.
Yeah.
It's and the interesting thing too is where he talks about how all the money came out of the dot-com bubble. Yeah. Slip there.
That's right.
And just flooded into real estate.
Yeah. I remember.
With no sort of, not exactly no rhyme or reason, but the same kind of herd mentality. So it's always good to be aware of herd mentality and investing. I think real estate investors in particular are prone to it. And I think when you have a drumbeat of, there's a whole drumbeat of media around real estate now that wasn't there before, like Bigger Pockets, like even what we're doing, and Facebook and things like that didn't exist, or weren't really well known. I guess Facebook was around during the crash, but it was still pretty minor. So it's just beware is the point.
Yeah, I think that's a great book. I mean, even if you step out of real estate, you go look at what happened with meme stocks, or you go look at crypto. It is just a series of feedback loops. Eventually it cracks and breaks, and it goes back the other way. Kind of. Yeah.
Look what happened with NFTs, right?
NFTs, exactly.
NFTs have just, the bottom has dropped out of that market, right? Because which honestly, I'm a little surprised at, because I thought that people could continue to just like imagine that those things had value for a very long time, but I think it was just a very it's easier for people. Frankly, in my view, the same thing should happen with crypto because it has just as much value as NFTs. But I guess it was easier for people to conceptualize the worthlessness of
a JPEG,
right?
Yeah.
Than the worthlessness of something that calls itself money, right? And it's called money. It's called currency, so it must be worth something. Whereas like a stupid picture, it's a lot easier to like realize that that's just a stupid thing, right? But anyway, beware of these things, you know. And I think a lot of people too also think like, hey, I'm smarter than average, so I can get in and get out and make money and not get hurt, right? That's also a very common fallacy that people have, right? And I think one of the great things about the Irrational Exuberance book is that I've heard so many people in my investing career say, oh, well, the big banks are doing it, so therefore it must be right, right? Hedge funds are doing it, so therefore it must be right. Jamie Dimon's doing it, so therefore it must be right. One of the things that is great about Irrational Exuberance is that he actually just completely destroys that and says like they screwed up as bad. They bought in, they drank the Kool-Aid, they bought into it just like everybody else did, and they got hurt just like everybody else did, right? So, and it was only a few people who were screaming like, this book, right? The Big Short, which is another book that I think you should read. Also very, you know, this is for general readers, but it really walks through the counter story to the financial crisis of the people who were like scratching their heads going like, what? I just don't get it. I don't understand what's going on here. And also had, you know, who had the wherewithal to bet against it, right?
The Big Short was a very interesting read for me. Read that one 2 years ago because I could put myself in the story, because again, I'm one of the guys that was in housing, went from legit lending to just sign this piece of paper lending, which I thought was crazy, but did it anyway. Also saw that I couldn't buy the next one because I wasn't going to get a teaser loan. So I got out, and I could read that book and just remember where Olivia and I were, and like, thank God we got out because our market went down 75%. It's a good read.
I mean, I remember people, you know, screaming, but, you know, there were like people like going, like tearing their hair out going, all this stuff is going to reset in 2 years, right? Like I remember that conversation and remember like how everybody ignored it. It was like these people were put on TV as like the crackpots, right? Who were saying, hey, you know, when these 2-year teasers are gone in 2007, the whole thing is going to unravel, and everybody was like, no.
They'll just refi till you die. I remember that,
but those were the people who were right?
Oh, so, no question.
But everyone made fun of them until, you know, until they were right. So it's also, this is just before we get to the next book, it's also very funny. I once did a search for what people were saying after the bubble collapsed, and there were a lot of prominent economists out there, even after the bubble burst, who said there was no bubble, it's coming back, this is buy the dip, right? All that kind of stuff, right? And so somebody out there, I should have to dig this up again, compiled all these quotes of all these people and to make them,
that would be fun to look at,
expose them, right? For all the people who were saying that, you know, nothing was wrong, nothing is wrong, this is all going to be fine, it's going to pass by in 6 months, don't worry about it. So okay, let's see, next book. This one I actually have not finished yet, but this is a classic book on maniacs, panics, and crashes, by Charles Kindler-Berger. So this is a classic on mania. It's a little bit denser a read, but this is also, if you're interested in economic history and the history of bubbles and crashes, this is really good.
I have not read that one. I may add that to my list. Thank you.
Okay. Next book. I just finished this one. This was a recommendation by John Montero. I don't know if you know him, but
I know the name.
A well-known investor in my Facebook group, owns thousands and thousands of units. John, if you're watching, thanks for recommending this. This is a really great book, The Lords of Easy Money. This basically, and we've actually referred to this book on the podcast, but this book really tells the story of how the Fed lost its moorings and just pumped endless amounts of free money into the system long after it was necessary, long after they should have stopped, after they stabilized the economy after the financial crisis, that they just continued to, put out easy money, and how that led to sort of where we are today with, asset prices being insane and, normal people being kind of pushed out of the markets, right? So, and setting up a dangerous system for the dangerous, situation for the future where, basically we've just piled debt on debt on debt on debt on debt. And at some point, this is all going to come due. So that is, Lords of Easy Money is a really good read. Also, this is a book that is for general readers, not
it is,
academics. So this is a book that it tells a good story. Okay. And then last, I mean, I could go on for a long time, but just pick stuff that I have. A lot of my stuff is in my office, like I said. Sure. This, this is not a economics book per se, but this is one of my favorite books in terms of how you run a business and how you keep moving, and probably about due for a reread. But this is The War of Art. This is by Stephen Pressfield. Now this book is not about business. Okay. This book is about, if you are a writer or an artist, how to kick yourself in the butt every day to just get up and do your job and do the work.
I like it.
However, it is highly, highly applicable if you are an entrepreneur, or if you are, let's say you are in a W-2 job and you want to break out and you want to be a real estate investor.
Yeah.
And you're constantly like, well, I don't have time, I'll do it tomorrow.
Awesome.
I don't feel like it now. This is the book to read, which is essentially like, I mean, it's sort of tough love, right? Yeah. It's basically just like, get off your ass and just do it.
I like it.
Every single day. But it's a very, very, it's more than that. This is really one of the greatest kind of self-help books ever written.
I will add that to my list, folks. Just so you know, I've taken notes. I will put all the links below, right to Amazon if you want to buy them. I'm going to pick up a couple of those. I have not read several of those, so
yeah.
Thank you.
The War of Art. There's also a sequel to The War of Art called Turning Pro, which kind of takes it to the next level. But the War of Art is really just a terrific book, and it was recommended to me originally by a good friend of mine who is a writer, and faced with that struggle of like resistance, like not just sitting down and doing the work, right? So
I'm going to get that book today. Thank you for that. This is awesome. I love asking my expert what they read, because sometimes you get the traditional books, but sometimes you pick up some gems, and a couple of, I still haven't got the Lords of Easy Money. I'm going to buy that and the War of Art today. Links will be below. Jonathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, several places. You can go join my free Facebook group called Multifamily Investment Community. There are some questions you have to ask, so please try to go on a computer, because Facebook doesn't show you the questions on your phone. So the first time, go on the computer, and then once you're in, and you can always use your phone. Another place is, if you would like to get on my investment list, you can go Google Two Bridges Asset Management and fill out the investment form. We actually have some stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm recording a webinar today on a new deal. So if you want to get on my list, please do. And then if you are interested in learning how to do this all by yourself without investing with someone like me, you can join my coaching program, which is very, very reasonably priced. And you can find out all the details at multifamilylaunchpad.org/join.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.